wanted to make a video that explains the difference between a mini cycle and a full-blown 12-week cycle or a big cycle. And then also to piggyback off of that, how you guys can work on maintaining the gains you kind of got, the strength you got from one of these or two cycles, okay? So mini cycles, first of all, are 8 weeks, and I think they're really important. They kind of fill in the grooves here, the cracks of working out, but a little bit differently than a 12-week does. So 8-week mini cycles are my thought process behind them, and why I started doing them is it allows us to take really any movement. I've often used supplemental movements. This upcoming month, at the time of making this, we're going to have an 8-week shoulder press cycle. It's just a good opportunity, I think, given the lack of shoulder movement we've had recently in terms of like from the strength side, to give us a little bit of structure and foreshadowing, or us being proactive and you guys knowing what's coming towards one of those, I would say highly prioritized muscle groups. So the shoulder press, 8 weeks. Is it ideal? Relative to a 12-week cycle, I would prefer it to be a 12-week cycle, but I really wanted to highlight the deadlift, and we'll go into that here in a second. But the 8 weeks is going to be, when it starts, that you're going to have 8 consecutive shoulder days that are going to start with a seated shoulder press. All right, and I think that's really important for you guys as members, and that's the point I wanted to get across. Now, unlike a 12-week progressive overload cycle where we're only fixated on getting stronger, the mini cycle offers us a little bit of fluidity and flexibility to not only maybe progressive overload a little bit, but also just give us repetition and volume for a movement that a lot of people typically just struggle with or haven't had a lot of exposure to. So the 8-week cycle, you'll get it 8 consecutive weeks. You'll start class with it 8 consecutive weeks on shoulder day, which hopefully gives motivation for people to show up and make sure they get the full value of that. But also, you don't have to. Unlike a regular 12-week cycle where you kind of have to show up for it to work, there's not really a start and end goal per se, like there is on a big cycle for these 8-week mini cycles. So again, trying to find ways to offer value and structured programming that don't make it too chaotic. All right, so that's the 8-week cycle. A 12-week cycle, of course, the big boy cycle here. I think these are hugely important. Like, you guys get these, again, within the confines of Cor4. A huge emphasis from me on the programming side is making sure we get 3 of these a year. Summer, if you don't know, usually I cut those out because we learned early on that people are just always gone in the summer, and cycles just don't work. So we're finishing up the chest cycle at the time of this recording, and in a couple of weeks we will start a 12-week deadlift cycle. Now, 12-week cycles are the epitome of strength training and hypertrophy, the epitome of growing lean muscle tissue and developing it. Kind of like I mentioned on the mini cycle, it's also, if you're brand new and you're not too sure, like, it's a great opportunity to get guaranteed volume and repetition of a movement, to teach your body via that repetition and volume on the neuromuscular side, on the the line of the motion side, how to do these movements. And a lot of times your efficiency will skyrocket just from doing them X amount of times, right? Whereas if you didn't have a cycle, you may ping pong around days, you might miss, chest day, shoulder day, or whatever for a couple weeks in a row, whereas these cycles kind of hone you in and make you show up to those specific days, which is, again, going to catapult our efficiency and our productivity through the roof from a training perspective. So 12-week cycles, only primary lifts. Like, the mini cycles, we can do kind of whatever we want because it's not fixated. Whereas the big cycles, like, you can't do supplementary or ancillary lifts. Like, that's not really the goal. Like, the muscles aren't big enough. We need to use the primary lifters here. So again, as you guys know, front squats, deadlifts, chest press, shoulder press, like the big lifts and the big muscle groups. So 12-week cycles are invaluable. I always tell everybody, regardless of what it is, I would strongly advise that you show up to 12-week cycles. Again, these are written into your membership. Like, it's crazy. Like, just do it. Just do the 12-week cycle. At least start it, right? Like, at least start it. Maybe, so this is a good example. The deadlift is coming up, right? Deadlift is coming up, again, at the time of recording this. a lot of people are, deadlift is a very polarizing movement. A lot of people are kind of afraid of deadlifts. We don't feel comfortable doing deadlifts. We certainly don't feel comfortable doing deadlifts with a lot of weight. This is an opportunity for you guys to get your feet wet, reestablish maybe the fundamentals of a movement like the deadlifts, learn how to anchor and control it so we can protect our backs and as we work our way through these guaranteed 12 weeks of deadlifts, right? Rather than just throwing it on the back burner or totally avoiding it at all costs. So the 8-week and the 12-week, those are the difference between the two if you're unsure. And then, the other piece of this video I wanted to talk about was what happens after the 12-week cycle is over. And I think it's a very fair and valid question. So again, as the time we're recording this, the chest cycle is soon to end. And a lot of people, if not everybody, is going to make some type of gain on the 12 weeks, whether they go up, multiple weight ranges. Maybe they end up doing a couple more reps of their max from last time. Maybe their max just is more fluent than it was the first time. Regardless, how do you maintain that post-cycle? And here's the answer. And not everybody's going to love this answer. You really can't, right? Like in our setting, you cannot, let's say I did 70s on week 1, I have a chest press, and then week 12 rolls around and I put up 80s pretty smoothly. Maybe I fail at 85, but I made a 20-pound jump or 10 on each hand, 20-pound gross jump on my chest press. That's an amazing return. Like that, anybody goes up 2 weight classes, like you should be jumping. Like that is fantastic, right? But how do I then maintain that? Well, like I said, it's pretty much impossible. Like I increased my max output for 1 rep over the course of 12 weeks. I have to have the realistic expectation that number is going to come down because I'm no longer working on it every 6th day. And it's not so structured and the guaranteed volume repetition is not there every 6th day, which is fine. You maintain it by, I'm going to drop down maybe 1 weight class potentially, and I'm going to focus on every single time there is a chest day. I'm going to make it clear that I'm going to put a lot of energy and effort into all of my lifts, right? The primary lifts, which is why we start most classes with lifts. So you guys have the opportunity to hang out in maintenance mode when there's not cycles going on, right? You have to have the ability, and I guess the discipline, and the tediousness, and those who that track things, tracking things that you can for sure in stone anytime you have the opportunity until the next big cycle of a chest press. You are moving as much weight as possible, doing as many reps as possible with the appropriate weight, which is why we set these 1 rep maxes. Problem is, once we get out of cycles, a lot of people kind of just push it to the side. We stop tracking. We kind of do whatever rep count. We don't really pay attention to the percentages. And then next time a cycle rolls around, we're basically just resetting from where we started last time because everything's just kind of been whatever, right? So you have to have a realistic expectation that your 1 rep max will dip a little bit, but you've increased your floor, all right? So your ceiling will drop a little bit after you hit your 1 rep max, but again, you now know you can do it, which is awesome, right? Like from a mental standpoint, knowing that you have the ability or the capacity to do something is like half the game in the gym, but you also need to know that your floor now just increased, right? Your efficiency increased, your neuromuscular efficiency also increased, your power output increased. All of this stuff is going to increase from the 12 weeks of work, and then ultimately on your maintenance days now, aka chest day, once a week, you guys can now move the appropriate way based off of that 1 rep max, and that will keep you very, very close to that 1 rep max output with a little bit of a dip. And you can do that for obviously any of the cycles that we're going to perform. Is we want to constantly be raising our floor and aiming to hit our ceiling, right? But anyway, I hope this helps a little bit. 8-week, 12-week, how to maintain your gains from a 12-week cycle. And you guys, if you have questions, as always, just feel free to ask. And by the way, this was a video proposition from a member. So members tend to give me the best ideas in terms of like things they want to know, things that they think about. Anybody ever has any ideas on just any topic, just send them my way and I'll do my best to correlate that into a video for y'all.